What if the key to ending ocean plastic pollution isn't cleaning up what's already there, but redesigning the materials we use in the first place? Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we spotlight bold thinkers who are reshaping how we build, manufacture, and sustain our world. I'm your host, Dr. Leeanne Aguilar. Today we're diving deep, literally and figuratively, with Ariadne Dimoula, an oceanographer, inventor, and CEO of Paramount Planet Product, also known as P3rd.Earth. I guess that's P3rd.Earth.
Nailed it.
Ariadne, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. You began your career studying marine science and ocean policy. What first drew you to the ocean? And when did you realize your calling wasn't just to study it, but to protect it through innovation?
Gosh, well, I first noticed water, how much I loved water has always been with me. But the idea that maybe there was an issue around how we behaved and how we treated our water started to come into my consciousness when I was a kid, around 8 or 7 years old. We had this swimming spot that I absolutely loved down the street from me. I grew up on the Penobscot River. I grew up on a tributary of the Penobscot River called the Stillwater. And there's a very well-known local swim spot, which would attract all the college kids. And back in those days, the college kids were not known to be the same green forefronters that we're known to today. So there would be a lot of, let's just say, party remnants at at this beautiful spot. And I thought, hey, let's redesign it. I at that time thought we could put seeds in our packaging, and that would end up being a positive for the environment and bring more flowers. But at that time, the paper mills were closing. I'm from Maine. I grew up in Maine, so that's where the Penobscot River is. And with all those paper mills closing, you realize that they weren't innovating. They were just trying to stay alive. And unfortunately for the pulp and paper industry, what I've learned is a lot of the times that means they want to make more of it, they want to make quicker of it, and they want to make cheaper of it. So that's something that I learned as I grew up when I became a scientist and started working in blue tech, which would be technology that surrounds the ocean, sonar development, GPS coordination, education. I was working with different organizations around NOAA and the Navy. NOAA is the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. And of course, we all know the Navy. So I was working with companies that would innovate for these organizations. And that's when I realized that there were keys that existed that could help fund innovation. The one that I found was called a Small Business Innovative Research Grant. So as soon as I found out about small business innovative research grants, I drew on my family history of pulp and paper, chemical engineering, as well as my experience and interest in marine science and also in blue tech innovation. And that's what made me realize that I could develop sonar to be compliant with the Marine Mammal Protection Act. And that's still something I'm really passionate about. But the most pressing need was addressing our plastic waste. It was literally just turning off that tap of the plastic that's flowing into the environment. I realized we have the technology to be able to change that equation and use materials that grew and we wanted to grow more of and turn them into the materials that we use every day.
Something that's safer and more sustainable and doesn't do the harm to the environment that the
Absolutely.
existing technology is. Yeah.
I'm so inspired by how nature designs its waste. Nothing goes to waste. In nature, waste actually equals food. So I took that principle that exists right now today for free. You look outside, you see a tree that grew from a tiny seed into a huge forest of trees, and they every year make the products that they need, whether it be leaves or bark or whatever. They use the resources around them to grow, to make the source and the products that they need. And that inspired me. First off, we know it's possible. A tree does it
And
every day.
nature, yeah.
Second off, biomimicking those principles. I realized we could just take resources that exist today, resources we want more of, like forests, and translate them into looking into what material exists today, which in Maine for us a lot is this forest resource. I found a type of hydrogel, which is called microfibrillated cellulose, same thing as paper. Paper all starts as craft pulp, and then to make the hydrogel that we use, it goes into a big industrial blender. So I realized that this hydrogel called microfibrillated cellulose existed, but they didn't know how to put it into machinery. So we couldn't make products that would be
Ah,
useful. And
right.
that's where we got our Small Business Innovative Research Grant in order to make the machinery that is necessary to adapt the machinery that exists today in order to make the products that we use. So using forest resource, make a product that needs nothing else besides wood and water, and producing a product that doesn't need additional chemicals in order to perform. And that's just because of how this hydrogel loves itself so much. Grease can't penetrate it. It's super strong, super lightweight. So I had to innovate, and my team, we innovated how to make it so that the machinery that exists today can handle this type of new it's about 15 years old, this
Uh-huh.
material, microfibrillated cellulose. And actually, you could, if you ate yogurt earlier today, you might have had some, because it's used a lot in yogurt or in cheese as a stabler or a thickener, also in
Oh,
makeup.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so just drawing on inspiration from nature, looking at the biomimicry like you're talking about, seeing, getting um, inspiration. I mean, nature already does this, and nature already recycles, right? And it takes care of itself. And I like what you said. It's like there's actually no waste in nature, and yeah. So why don't we adopt some of that? Yeah,
We know our single-use items. We know our single-use items are going to become waste. That is how we are designed. Just like a tree knows its leaves are going to be dropped at the end of the year.
right.
Happy fall. We
Yeah,
design our single-use products with that same ethos, that same cadence. It will return to nature and cause benefits
yeah.
for the environment, like those leaves do.
Instead of harm. Yeah.
And it could, maybe people might think it's complex or more difficult than it seems. But things like making your backyard compost,
Hmm.
using materials that don't need extra toxins, all of these actually are simpler than the system we have now, which takes so much to fortify it, to make the plastic, to take the plastic from the earth, to make it, to put it on a truck, to then put it in a landfill. That's such a weight. That's such a expensive process. We
Process
can
and
make
expensive.
long
Yeah.
and we can make it so that it's something a lot simpler, a lot healthier, not just for the environment, but for us. We need to make sure that the products that we eat every day are coming to us in completely healthy packaging that
Right.
works.
Yeah. Now you come from a long line of pulp and paper engineers, a fascinating connection of your current work. How did your family's history shape your path towards sustainable material science?
Very well, when I started this, I actually didn't know how deep my family's history in manufacturing went. So my mom is a pulp and paper chemical engineer. So I grew up in mills and around engineering all through my childhood, all until those mills started to close or go offshore. So that was always something that I had seen, I had understood, and saw the positive and the negatives. The mills, everybody loves the jobs they bring. Today, they're designed to have pollution as a part of the equation. Again, a design that is not necessary. Humans can solve all problems once we look at the problem. So once we look at this problem and see, oh, this is not a closed loop system, we can design it for that closed loop system. And in this way, it's simply capturing and filtering the emissions that come from the mill. And then you can sell them to secondary options. So I grew up with this viewpoint of the mill as a child myself. And then going into this industry, I actually learned that on my father's side, my grandmother, who I didn't know worked in Germany, she actually worked in a manufacturing mill. But she was one of the early plastic, wasn't an engineer, was a mill worker, but one of the early mill workers in the early days of plastic. So that's very interesting to have that family history in manufacturing from what at that time seemed like an incredible invention, which we now know
Right.
at the other end has. And she would make products that would be made to use more than one time. It would be things like rulers or pale things that had multiple purposes in mind. Uh, and then on my back to my mom's side, actually, even like 200 years ago, we were barrel makers. You can go actually to a place in New Hampshire that's called Strawberry Lane, and it has a bunch of old houses there. And my mom's side, the Loud House is there, and we learned that they're actually barrel makers back in the turn of the century. So yeah,
That's
on both
awesome.
sides we have
Fascinating. Yeah.
packaging thinkers that runs deep, and it's something that I think is if not at the not like at the forefront of my understanding, it's something that we realized going through it, like, oh, that could be why this is the calling to get this done. Because I love being an oceanographer. I love working with NOAA and Navy and all the technical science researchers that I've had the absolute pleasure to meet. But there was no way that I was going to go through my career studying the problem getting worse
Ah,
without just changing that equation and solving this one of, to me, our lower hanging problems
right.
that we're facing, and a problem that no one denies is from humans.
Yeah.
So to me, it was something that we should all
Yeah,
get.
but I love that, and that's, I mean, very inspirational. I mean, you just stepped in and actually took it on, to do something about it.
Well, I'm very cognizant that, if I'm lucky, I'll get to live to another 30 years, and I'll be explaining to somebody that's born today, either what it was like, or, what it was like beforehand. And that was just not, that's not going to happen. There's not going to happen without throwing everything at it,
Mhm.
everything out in the kitchen sink, all resources, uh, all experts, all help, whatever we can gather up to address this problem. And I'm very happy, actually, at the same time as our growth and development, I've seen so many other companies come online, so many other organizations that are all fighting for the same goals. It really feels like, even though right now the predictions are plastic, single-use plastic in particular, will triple within the next decade production, I think the groundswell of the organizations and the innovation that is being applied to it right now is going to reverse those trends.
Yeah,
That's what we work
right.
towards every day. And that's what people want. Paper is the new luxury. Paper feels right. It has that nice crisp feel. So we're so excited that we were able to make it perform with only using more cellulose.
Yeah, right.
No need to use additional chemistry.
So same benefits, same luxury, same feel, but a different, more sustainable,
Well, this
biodegradable product.
Yes, because right now, paper, if you just took a piece of paper right now and drop oil on it, that oil will get absorbed by that paper. You can understand, right? And get over some of that, the industry uses chemistry. What's been really well known, or what's gaining people notoriety in the paper at this moment, is PFAS. If you've heard about that, it's a forever
Yeah, the
chemical.
forever chemicals,
Yes,
right.
that
Yeah.
they use that to help grease-proof pans, clothes, and our packaging that we use. Now, some places have banned it and people are coming up with different chemistries, but there's been a history of whack-a-mole chemistry where something gets created, something gets banned, and then another thing gets created that's a lot like it. It keeps that same hydroxyl group tail. So that's something that we really are excited to help phase out completely with microcellulose that is grease proof naturally because of the formation. Well, what we believe it is from research is that it's the formation of the strands so much liking each other, they just don't absorb that grease. So this is a chance to help paper or other molded fiber might see in the store. You might see sugarcane based bowls or bamboo. All of these use this chemistry in order to grease proof it. So we want to help, if we're not the full bowl itself, we'll help all bowls transition to just use additional cellulose, microfibrillated cellulose, to help get that benefit. And not only the benefit of performing, but also being recyclable at the end, paper stream recyclable. So that's an important part of it, because we don't want people to litter more, because we would like people to use the systems that are in place today. So recycling, paper today is actually recycled from 50 to 80%. So it has a fairly high recycling rate as opposed to plastic, which is less than 10%. So we want to help paper become better recycled because they don't need those additional chemicals in
Yeah.
order to perform
So
like it
what I'm
needs.
hearing is your technology is really transferable to a lot of other products and applications, so you can improve their processes and make their processes that are already in place more sustainable. So, and
Absolutely.
yeah, okay, great. Now, starting a science-based company is no small feat. What gave you the confidence to go from oceanographer to founder and inventor?
Oh, well, so I had the pleasure of working with some really innovative folks who had done something like this before. made something from their mind, had invented something and put it on the market, and then gotten it to a place where they had a following and people using it. That was important. But like I said earlier, so I had seen people do it and I thought, well, they're wonderful and super smart people, but that's a possible thing to do. And on the other side of it was the reality of, if somebody doesn't do something, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
And I felt, as a marine scientist, who went into blue tech innovation, that this was the thing to correct course on, because no one can deny it's from humans. I have to this day such reaffirmed faith that we can invent the problem. We can invent the solutions to the problem when we decide that this is a problem and what we want for the solution. So I was, at that time, work in my previous career, working to invent very tricky technical things. And I thought, hey, let's just make a straw. It seems possible to make a straw that people will love to use, and then that will absolutely just be able to degrade in the backyard compost pile, or in or the environment if it's accidentally littered. So that ability to just create the solution to the problem in line with what exists today from nature's example also gave me that that I'd seen it before, that it was totally possible, and that if somebody didn't stand up and do something, the problem was going to get worse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, I didn't want to be 30 years from now explaining to somebody that was born today, how we dropped the ball or what it used to be like.
Right. When you could have done something, when you were equipped to do something,
Well,
it sounds like you had all the resources. And I mean, how much did the grant that you spoke about play into that ability to get your
so all the
company started?
resources, in that I had a burning desire to get the job done, and then going to find the resources come heck or high water. I was born in a country where I was able to choose my destiny. I was born to people that supported me throughout my education, and that, my parents were just like, yeah, get good grades, and just a belief in myself and my own capabilities of finding whatever needed to get found, meeting whoever needed to be met, and getting everybody on board around the idea that, let's just redesign with the end in mind. So
Yes.
I would say, from that belief, I recognized maybe, this family history that was also here for generations to invent or to be a part of the manufacturing space. And also, that's very inspirational to me, to change manufacturing in the future towards a system where people actually want to be around these manufacturing spaces. No more sacrifice zones, no more place where, okay, that's where we manufacture so we can pollute there. That's not how it needs to be done, and it's actually wasting resources when you pollute. Yeah, so back to your original question around what gave me the confidence to be able to go and do this, to go and invent things. Did I address your question,
Yeah,
Leanne?
yeah. And then, I mean, how much did so it's like, I know you had the
Well, how much
passion,
did the
you had
NSF
the
play
drive,
into
you had
it?
the family
Okay.
connection. And
Yes.
what
Well,
about, yeah.
I really want to stress that I actually didn't have any family connections. I mean, I have my pulp and paper chemical engineering mom, who is my co-founder, and she has this technical know-how, which is incredibly hard to find in the industry, because that so many places closed and people retired. So we really are relying on this heritage knowledge that she's bringing to our team, in order to understand and make sure that we're making things now that can easily fit into pulp and paper engineering equipment that exists today. It's a part of inventing what you need and a part of fitting into what it is. But when we had started this company, paper mills have been closed for 10 years. It
Wow.
didn't feel like we were perfectly set up to make this happen. It was just the drive that was going to make it happen. I really want your readers to understand that nothing was handed to a silver platter. It was all just gone after. And so back to your SBIR question, small business innovative research question, when I worked for other companies that would get these grants to invent products for the Navy, I learned that every government agency has an SBI, every government of US, of course, every US government agency, National Oceanographic Atmospherics, and NOAA, or the National Institute of Health. We got ours from National Science Foundation, but each of these government agencies have 2 or 3% of their budget set aside to support innovative small business research in America. And that is because America has a leading edge in innovation And these grants help us bring home and bring to life this technology right here. So technology we use every day, from our phones, from this computer, GPS, all of these elements, and these were developed through this SBIR program. So I learned about this SBIR program where our first entry into trying to get these products on the shelf was actually just talking straight to our customers, our potential customers, large industry, people that sell Dixie, for example, sell hundreds or millions of products every day, week, month, year around the globe. We learned from them that they don't invest in risky technology. They would rather buy you at millions of dollars than even give you $100,000 or $20,000. They don't invest in risky technology. The technology has to be proven, and then they'll utilize it. So that really left us to say, okay, we have unproven technology. We found this material that's very promising. It doesn't fit in commercial spaces yet, but we had to de-risk it completely in order to get it into commercialization. And the SBIR program is literally designed to take something from it does not exist to now it exists. And when you're applying for the SBIR program from the Navy, they'll tell you what they want to exist. We want a sonar that does not hurt marine mammals in any way, or takes into account the marine mammals in the area. They'll tell you exactly what they want.
Right.
But for the National Science Foundation, it's different because they won't be your customer. National Science Foundation will never be a distributor that buys hundreds of thousands of packaging. So you still have to go out and prove that you have a customer, that you have interest, that people will buy your product. So the National Science Foundation was instrumental for us. It was the first big yes that we had gotten. It's in 2 different stages. The first stage is a small state, phase 1. So it's like the different agencies have different amounts, but ours was around $250,000 for a year. And we took our invention from, this cannot be molded into useful technology. This cannot be molded. This pulp cannot be moved and put through a machine and made a useful product at the end. People would make things that look really like potato chips, or they just couldn't control it. So from the phase 1, we were able to make the machinery that we needed to control this pulp. So we took it from not existing to now it exists. Yes. We can make products like every time we make the same product, so that was a big step from doesn't exist to exist. And then we applied for the phase. So because we were successful, we were eligible for the phase 2. So we took it from now it exists to, from the phase 2 was $1 million of funding for 2 years. And we were able to take it from now this product exists to now we're scaling up and doing pilot trials. So we have a bigger machine that's more automated, not 100% automated yet. That's what we're working towards. And we're making, so now with this machine that's more capable to make products, more prototypes, we can now work with pilot scale machinery to put our products into customers' hands to say, this works, we need it to look like this, or it needs to have a different depth, shape, feel, all these sort of details.
Right.
And that's where we are today.
Now, your company focuses on replacing the top most common ocean pollutants, things like wrappers, lids, and filters. Why did you decide to tackle those first? And how are you approaching that challenge?
Okay. So many different organizations put out a list every year. Surfrider Foundation, which is an American one, Ocean Conservancy, which is who we use, every year will put out a list of these are the top 10 most found litter during beach cleanups. And every year it's the same: straws, caps, bottles, wrappers, cigarette filters, always number 1. So these single-use, like I said earlier, plastic packaging is expected to increase to double or triple the amount it's done today. And a good half of that is single-use plastics. So by addressing the products that we find every day, every year, every day during beach cleanups, we know we are solving a significant portion of the plastic pollution crisis. That's really how we entered into this. We wanted to tackle the plastic pollution crisis with the single-use products that are used every day. It just so happens that these are huge international markets that we felt even if we could get a percentage or a percentage of the global market, we'd be making huge business. So So when you're starting a business, so much of it is you have to explain who your customers are and how you get to them, right?
Right.
And at that time, and still to this, so quick service restaurants, that is the people that would serve all of these single use products, and also a lot of consumer packaged goods, consumer packaged good brands. What we learned was, so quick service restaurants, hyper price sensitive. This whole industry is hyper price sensitive. These products that I'm talking to you about that are plastic are cheap, but they're not necessarily free. When we were looking at how much a plastic lid might cost, our initial thought was maybe tenths of pennies, only
Uh-huh.
to learn that it's actually about 5 cents. So these things do have. It's very interesting that that we're so conditioned to give these things that do have value away for free, right? It's
Right.
just built into their costs, right?
Exactly.
So we recognize that all of these higher end, a lot going into this industry, we realized that's where you do the most help, is you help by tackling these large markets. What we discovered was there's a play here where value added is important, and
Mm-hmm.
giving these higher end coffee shops that value added feel, or that value added performance, really was a part of the equation, where we now understand that targeting those that are looking to elevate their brand
Mm-hmm.
is a part of the equation, which leads us to not always doing the top 10 most found litter. Sometimes it's just this consumer packaged good companies that want to change their image or want to showcase their values. They and are always interested in redesigning their packaging. And these might be things like makeup, and also makeup has a lot of communication to its customers, especially if they want to be natural or get customers that are very concerned with making sure they have as little exposure to toxins. So that's
Right.
when we recognize from, okay, tackling the cheapest of the cheap is a hard way to start an innovative material on the market. And we diversified to look at the open door of those consumer packaged goods that are looking for new materials and are open to new products.
Yeah, and have a larger budget probably
Have a larger budget.
allocated for
But
that.
that's not to say that now also there's a lot of legislation coming online that is preventing those quick service restaurants from maybe using plastic whatsoever. So now people, or using chemicals in their fiber products.
Hmm.
So now people, even if, oh, another thing that's coming online is extended producer responsibilities. So laws or fees that are coming in. Maine is growing one, California, Oregon, they're coming, there's, and of course in Europe and international, these are taxes that are levied against different distributors or people that sell packaging. So your local grocer might now get a bill for selling all the plastic that it sells for their, um, let's say, their fruit trays or their bakery goods. So that is opening up space for these typical industries that were very cost sensitive to be looking for new materials, even if they are more expensive, but they do have to work. So
Right.
that's when the value added of this working becomes super important. And that's a little bit of a messy way to say why we started tackling with the cheaper products,
Huh?
expanded it to more value added because, like you said, the budget, but now with the extended producer responsibility laws and other bans coming online, it opens up space for people because everybody has to explain to, their higher up why we are paying more for something. And if
Right.
they can say, well, we're actually going to get charged for this 5 times more because in this community they can't recycle this,
So
there's
ultimately it evens out, or ultimately it's not the cost that
right.
it,
And
it
yes,
seems to be.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right. So many biodegradable products today still require special conditions to break down. What makes
Yes.
your material different and how it decomposes in natural environments like the ocean?
Absolutely. So let me talk a little bit about bioplastics and how they start. So bioplastics are corn a lot of the times, PLA, polylactic acid. You also might have PHA, which is like a bacteria formed plastic. And these plastics come from natural sources. Corn, comes from natural source, just like oil comes from a natural source. It goes
Right.
through a synthetic process and they sometimes will add plasticizers and other things you find in plastic. So these products are mimicking plastic almost exactly, even though they started from what we see as a natural start. Our product is paper. It's craft pulp. Craft pulp, to start from wood, craft pulp goes through a process of different heating and cooling of it in order to make it be the craft pulp at the end. And that's where a lot of the pollution might come. It uses different liquors and exhausts. We have, like I said, plans for making our mill sites eco-industrial sites by simply recapturing any of those pollutants and filtering them and selling them to secondary markets. So we look at this as a full picture. But right now, what we can buy is this craft pulp that exists in the market. And this is regular paper. So everything that we know paper to be biodegradable in the environment. To make our product, it goes through a mechanical, so it just gets whipped up in a blender. So there's not been that synthesizing aspect where it's gone through a cracking tower or added plasticizers. It's just wood and water that has been put through the regular craft pulp process, and then one additional step of refining it in a blender. They also call it grinding it. There's all these different ways that you can make craft pulp into microfibrillated cellulose. And the name helps you. So it's small strands, fibrillated, just totally, different fibers. If you think of like a strand, you can think of like a branch from the strand, and cellulose, right? So our material, when you've made microfibrillated cellulose, it looks like a very thick, wet cotton. It's so viscous that if I had a cup of it and turned it upside down, it would not move out at all. It's so viscous, but it's actually 97% water. So even though it's 97% water, it does not move or flow. It's so thick. We had to invent how to dewater it. That's all. So that's what we do. And that's why we're able to make sheets or useful products. So our product has never gone through a synthesizing process. It's the same pulp paper, and that's it. It's only because the fibers are so advanced themselves that they perform as we need them to perform.
Right. Sounds so simple.
Devil's in the details. But yeah,
details.
simplicity is a part of the goal here, because that is where you can keep your costs down, but it's also a part of how you can get easily adopted. And it's also what you see all around you, how nature is designed in a way that makes sense and uses the least amount of energy and resources.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you've said that innovation isn't just about invention, it's about avoiding unintended consequences.
Yes.
How do you test and validate your products to make sure they're truly safe for marine ecosystems?
Yeah, that was super important to us as a company, just especially like you mentioned earlier, with all the bioplastics that come out to market that people don't necessarily understand. They actually don't dissolve in the environment. These will biodegrade if you put them in very high heat. So over 100 degrees in very well mixed compost systems, and they take a long time. So we really wanted to make sure that we distinguished ourselves from those material and helped other materials that want to distinguish themselves as well with a way to test that their material actually is fine. And what we've come up with is ocean compostable, fish friendly. So the first part, ocean compostable, fish friendly, is a part of looking about how it biodegrades. There's different ASTM, there's different measuring standards that we're looking at to see what makes the most sense. And then the second part was fish friendly. So when this product dissolves, does it dissolve into something that is harmless or harmful? And how I actually turned to start working with a group of bioengineers out of University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, incredible research scientists, and a whole team of them, different students over the years. We've developed a method, and we're in iteration, just about to launch, of a way that tests fish friendliness. And what we do now is dissolve material using water and then expose them to fish eggs. And we use zebrafish, and zebrafish eggs are clear. So we're able to monitor how these fish eggs develop while they're being exposed to this material. When we expose them to different concentrations of materials, and a lot of the times the students will, have our material or just go out into the market and find materials that they exist at their, local fast food joint and grab those and cut them up and see how they dissolve. And been a very shocking and awakening for a lot of these students to see, wow, this material that they found sometimes in the open market has really adverse effects on the fish embryos. And how we look at them is we monitor heart rate, behavior, and then morphology, how they look. So this is very early stage when we are talking to other research scientists that are leading in the ocean conservancy and plastic replacement space. They want us to branch out into looking at terrestrial organisms or organisms that are specifically sea organisms. And there's space for a lot of that. And at the same time, we'd love to use this as a way to develop more vegan-based testings. We don't need to use fish eggs. Vegan testing is it's very early infancies. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, will not accept, vegan testing. They sometimes will make you to get FDA approved. They don't have a proxy for not using animals. We at least use what people call low trophic, very early, fish, worms, things like that. We want to use these sort of species, and alongside develop ways to do it where we don't have to use any sort of organisms, but to get to the fact of does this, when exposed, does this dissolve?
Right.
And then when it dissolves, does it cause harm? And zebrafish were a great proxy for human and environmental health, and are very well studied. So it seemed like a great place to start. And we're looking to invite more folks because, when you're doing a product that's completely healthy and it's new, it's a little more expensive. So this is a way that we can communicate to customers, you're protecting the planet and you're protecting yourself. You're making sure that this food, if you're buying plates, that you might be serving at your kid's birthday party, these plates have no chemicals that will cause any sort of unfriendly outcome.
Yeah.
So that is why that is our developing method of ocean-compostable, fish-friendly, and we are welcoming partners. So if any of your listeners are interested in getting
sounds like there's a ton of opportunity around that. It sounds like that. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. It's so needed. And the fiber industry, the molded fiber industry, which the molded fiber industry is over 100 years old, but was fallow for very many years as plastic reigned king, and now is coming back.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's a new area. It's new and exciting. Nobody's at a very large scale, but everybody needs to understand how to test and improve their material. So there definitely is space for us to all work together and make sure that our fiber-based packaging really does what we say it's going to do and really serves the people as well as dissolves into no problems at the end. But if I'm you're in the molded fiber packaging industry, you can innately understand that there's a lot of value here. But sometimes if you're on the outside of this industry, you might not understand and think it's more of a very kind of philanthropist, exercise of checking to make sure you don't have unintended consequences, not understanding the business side and the appeal to customers, and say this is super healthy and will protect you.
Yeah. Well, and most companies now have, corporate sustainability requirements and efforts that they're doing. And it's part of their mission and their visions. And so, they're going to stand behind what they say they're going to do. These efforts are part of their culture and part of what they're out to accomplish in their communities and for the world.
Absolutely. And it's so exciting. It's exciting to be a part of this space as we're growing alongside this revolution to choose better for us and our environment.
Now, you've received support from the National Science Foundation Small Business Innovation Research, like you mentioned, the SBIR. So now transitioning from lab science to large-scale manufacturing, that takes a lot of not only vision, but funding. So, you've mentioned the grants you've received so far. What do you see or what do you see as being your biggest challenges in scaling your technology for mass adoption?
So right now we're getting in pilot scales. So it means that we are testing our products in a real world environment. So right now we are in the process of making enough products so that we can test at a stores, maybe a store that is up and down the East Coast, but we're going to test in a small subsection, either just in Maine or certainly just around New England. So that is where we're at right now. And definitely, like you mentioned, we are a heavy investment space where we need machinery in order to scale. So we are right now reaching out to different partners to ask them for feedback on our pitch and tell them if we'd love to work with you and help grow our company to be something that serves these global markets that are developing. So we are looking to get notoriety. We're looking to put our products up against, in different competitions. Right now, we're going to next month. We'll be in a international conference where there is a sustainability um, a competition, and our two of our products, our straws and our flat sheets, have been nominated as finalists in this international sustainable packaging competition. And we're up against big dogs, think like Unilever size companies,
Yeah.
in
Wow.
their pre-revenue category. So this is great because we'd love these different companies to be able to see our technology and work with us to either use us in their products today,
Right.
or work with us to grow our technology to serve it to mass markets. So
Yeah.
I'd say our challenges are definitely finding the funding that might come through investments or from investments from different firms that are interested in sustainability, or from the customers themselves that want specialty products for them, and then want to be in our company to help develop the direction, um, positives and negatives for all these options. But definitely the end goal is to improve paper, and that's where everybody's at right now. So
Yeah.
funding, partnership, and location. We're right now looking for a location to, we're designing our machinery with different extremely intelligent, extremely experienced, in the pulp and paper industry machinery designers. And we are taking our technology that we invented, growing it into a larger scale. So right now we do flat sheets, and we're growing it into something that's a more continuous process, because that's the whole, instead of that be like a blank fed operation, it can be a continuous process, which is how a lot of pulp and paper is being made right now. So our gaining partners, gaining funding, and improving our technology so that it can compete alongside the incumbent technologies today.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about why a partnership model instead of building everything from scratch. Why is having partners critical for bringing sustainable materials to market?
Oh, well, I mean, we did have to build a lot from scratch. So we had to get it from this technology did not exist to it exists. And now it's something that we can make at a commercial scale or at a pilot scale. But working with customers that are already at that commercial scale is so helpful to just be able to put our technology into, like, become a material supplier for converters. So converters are already at scale. And then we can get an end use customer, think like a store, chain of stores, or, a fast food place or a grocer, these sort of different, end users. They're still big customers, but they want to work with they want to work with suppliers that are at scale. They don't want to
Hmm.
make an order and then say we can't get the same thing for another, who knows, month or so. They want to make sure that they order something and that continue it, and that is there. So working with converters or working with partners that are already at that scale is so helpful to be able to get the industry to be able to use it, because that supply is so critical.
Right. So it just helps you get your products to
Right.
market a lot
And if
more
we were
quick.
to, right, it gets your price a lot more quickly, and then also makes it so you don't have to do so much investment. Like, we already have to invest in machineries. If machinery and different processing equipment, if we were to try to do everything ourselves, it would be a way bigger upfront investment.
Yeah.
You, you know what I mean? A
Right.
full scale.
Yeah. No, and I think I mean, it's a win-win opportunity too for the partners. I mean,
That's
if
exactly.
you're using part of their equipment and, just paying for use
We're
or
helping them
yeah.
diversify their products, right? At the same time, they might want to get away from plastic. So we're helping them get away from plastic and have that new to market product,
Yeah.
which has the positives and the negatives. We work with them to make sure that we don't have any negatives. And also we work with our end users to understand exactly what needs to happen to perform. But like you said, like, it's a win-win, but it's also a win for everybody, including the world. Like, we want to do so many products. We got to get to work. We got to work with everybody. So that's our goal, to be really as helpful in transitioning towards new materials. And right now, our expertise is in this molded fiber forest-based product, but we're material agnostic. We're so excited to learn about different agricultural products. Seaweed is doing a lot coming online right now. We want to use all of it. So right now we just found this material and developed it's kind of like our flagship material, microfibrillated cellulose. We call it Eli, YLI, which is an ancient Greek word for matter,
Hmm.
implying wood-based matter. So we want to transition us so that all our matter, instead of plastic microfibers, is ely, which is something that can be digested easily by us and by nature.
Yeah. So you're the R&D behind the sustainability initiatives. So right.
P3RD.
There you go, P3RD. And so
Yeah.
you founded P3RD as part of a mother-daughter team, which is rare in both ocean science and manufacturing. What has that dynamic taught you about leadership, resilience, and innovation in a male-dominated industry?
Well, that's so interesting of a question. It's so Claudia, my mom, who's a pulp and paper chemical engineer and has been at this for over 30 years, and she used to sell processed chemicals to all sorts of plants all around, America and the Midwest. And she's been in the male dominated space before that was even like a noticed thing, right? I'm sure it was very taxing. But what she noticed and what she's told me is that if you have a solution, people don't care if you're pink, polka dotted, speckled. You have the solution that they need.
Yeah.
So that's a part of it that doesn't necessarily matter as long as you have the solution that they need. It doesn't matter who you are as long as you have that solution. And business is such a great force because it transcends so many different culture, location, language. It translates like no other human invention has ever done before. Maybe music, right? Music and
Yeah,
business.
that's true.
So there's a space there for everybody. I think instead of it being something that's a hindrance for me, it's something that's going to be a huge aspect and a huge advancement. Not just me bringing diversity to manufacturing, but us bringing a space that is uh, thinking and already more diverse. Like
Mhm.
when I think about, I went to a plant-based product council, and there was a whole conversation around how do we get more people to work at manufacturing locations. Well, put a coffee bar in there. People are working 24/7. These places need to be designed with humans in mind, which they're not
Yeah.
right now. So I think bringing different diversity perspectives, from my grandmother working in mills, my mother working in mills, this will ignite the change that mills need, that plants need to change in order to be something that the best and the brightest want to work at the future. Which is, we desperately need the best and the brightest to work where the rubber meets the road, the products that we touch every day.
Yeah. Now you've said your mission is to transform human impact into ecological abundance. What does that phrase mean to you? And what would success look like if we got it right as a planet?
Well, we want to design all of our industry sites to be eco-industrial sites, which means as they grow, they clean, like a plant. Thinking like a plant, it takes from its environment and then it gives back to an environment in a way that helps the environment grow. So we want to build on that real plant, like that we see growing everywhere, the real plant design, and make our sites, eco-industrial sites that we call plants, which is an acronym for people leveraging advancements of natural technologies. Scientists, we love our acronyms. So this site designed to optimize both its input, but then also reclaim and clean its output, positions the sites to actually contribute to not only the humans that are living there, but clean the environment. Because if it's cleaning your own weight, you can clean the environment even more. So having an awareness, and then you can have monitoring of the environment because you're not so scared about what you're putting out. You're making sure your systems work, so you're not because to see pollution as wasting potential is the paradigm change that we're
Mm,
all going to be going through. Right now, polluting is free, but it's wasting potential
right.
resources that you can then get more money from. So if people were to understand that, if all of our manufacturing sites could understand that externality these costs does not help you, it actually makes it so that your environment becomes a liability instead of an
Liability, I was gonna say. Yeah, I was thinking that.
asset. So redesigning our environment, our manufacturing sites to be assets for us in our environment will protect that biodiversity and that abundance that we need to see. There's just no reason to have sacrifice zones where we have our sites so that they pollute and we don't we don't see that as a problem. We recognize that as a wasting of as a wasting of more resources
Yeah.
that we can then reclaim, as well as improving our environment so that it's an asset for us to
Yeah.
enjoy.
No, that is an interesting paradigm shift. Yeah. And I think you're right. A lot of people do see or consider pollution as free, or that, you know, they're they don't recognize the consequences because they're not immediate necessarily. But that doesn't mean they don't have consequences, and often long-term consequences,
Right,
which are,
right. Well,
yeah,
exactly.
detrimental.
Right. So, and they may be afraid, right? Because they think that there's no other way to get it done. That's
Mhm.
never the case.
Yeah,
We can always invent our solutions that is needed when we look at it.
yeah, yeah. So your work with IMAP Ocean connects students around the world to real ocean research. Why is citizen science so important to the future of environmental innovation?
Yeah, well, that's so funny. So because, you have to be my heart is of course always with ocean science, and that's what bring I want to empower everybody to understand what ocean science is, but then to also understand things like how their GPS works, These technical advances can be really helpful when you're a part of designing a whole product. And then you're a part of tracking this ocean research device that we work. So this is a NOAA student drifter that is National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, helped design their a cooperative research extension group, helped design these drifters, recognizing that they would be buying these very expensive ocean drifters. They realized that they could buy them from renewable resources and make them themselves when you could start buying GPS units. So these GPS units are typically used to track shipments. We can now use them to track drones in the ocean, and that helps us understand about ocean currents. And so
Hmm.
I was bringing this program to students, to schools, so that they can be a part of collecting data, understanding how data is collected, but then also help contribute to ocean research data that is very helpful, that we don't have very much from, especially at different levels of the ocean. So that was the ethos of IMAP Ocean. And then really I've had to super focus on launching products. And I'm excited to get back into the ocean research space as soon as that opportunity, as soon as more
Presents
support and
itself.
more,
Yeah.
as soon as I'm able to get more of a team wrapped around that. But we had two very successful launches, one in Greece and one in Ireland, and looking, to the next generation of that in the future. But really, it's to empower kids to empower students to bring science into their classrooms, help give data back to research scientists, and then also understand the global connectivity that we're all under. This ocean connects all of us. So this
Right.
research drone dropped off of the Greek coast, and they've launched many off of the New England coast too. We have a huge hub for these NOAA student drifters here. But when you launch them off of this coast, East Coast, West Coast, anywhere in the world, they go someplace else, and
Hmm.
then you're instantly connected to that place there because you understand your
Yeah.
currents,
It's like a message in a bottle, right? Yeah.
just
It
like
ends
it.
up somewhere at some point, and yeah.
Right, exactly, exactly. And then it's a whole program to go reclaim it and reset it and then resend it off again.
Oh, that's so cool. So, Ariadne, for aspiring innovators listening, especially women in science and technology, what advice would you give to those who want to make a global impact but don't know where to start?
Well, I in college had always wondered. They had a fancy innovation center, and I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to invent something, you know? So it's just affinity, but I didn't realize that I'd already invented something at 8 years old. I wanted this thing to exist. So I think a lot that from my own story and from countless other entrepreneurs, innovators' stories, you can solve the problems that you want to have solved. If you see it as a problem, it's likely a problem for millions of other people too.
Yeah.
So understanding that lived problem and then believing in yourself to solve it, but it goes beyond it to understand that you're going to throw everything at it. There's no stopping. Like there's no, we've reached so many road bumps along the way. It's always a one door closes, another door opens. You just have to have that mentality and to keep throwing, like know that whatever problem that you're setting out to solve, you're not going to stop. You're just going to find out how to get through it. And that changes your viewpoint. It
Hmm.
shifts to you don't know how you're going to get it done, but you're start looking for the solution, and you start guessing, okay, this is how I think I'm going to get it done. And that might be wrong, that might be right, but along the way you learn so much that you then can take back, redraw. They call it a pivot. And
Yeah.
okay, so that would, like we explained earlier, we really we want to go after the top 10 most found litter. That is some of the cheapest material and maybe the hardest to start with. That doesn't mean we're not going to do it. We're just also going to, at the same time, work with those people that already are looking for this new problem, for this new solution to solve their problem.
Yeah. So I'm hearing just really a mindset and just a willingness to learn and be open to new possibilities. And even though something doesn't work the first time
Yeah.
or right away, just
Yes. So
have
you won't have all the answers at square one. And failing is just answers to how to succeed.
it. Hmm.
You might go through one fail. So what the place where I'm sitting right now is called the Rue Institute, which is Northeastern, which is a university out of Boston. They partnered with David Rue, a very successful entrepreneur, who then invested into Northeastern to build a campus in Portland, Maine, that helps support its students, but also helps support entrepreneurs. And it's been a game changer for me, but this did not exist when I started this company in 2018, 2019.
Oh,
So
wow,
it's like
cool.
the solutions come as you go and open yourself to uh, the the outcome that you desire. You want this.
Yeah,
I want a world without litter.
right. Yeah,
My choices were to study litter building up in the environment or come up with a solution. And coming up with a solution is my only option. They're only going to throw the whatever we've got, including the kitchen sink, at the problem until we get it done. So
yeah,
that's the mentality that I invite anybody to have for whatever problem. There's so many famous and already super successful entrepreneurs that ask for forgiveness and for permission, get this job done whatever way possible, find the right connection, research. There's so much resources that exist for you right now. I was not born with any resources provided for me. We went and drummed them up,
yeah.
and they
Made it
exist for you
happen.
too. Yeah, it exists for you too. It exists for everybody on this world, I believe. So just be open to it. And if you are a person that would like some advice, or if you would like to brainstorm around how to solve it, there's people like me, and then there's people that are way more successful than me that would also be happy to work with you. So
Right.
it's just about,
Mentors. You're right. Like there are so many people who are willing to be mentors and
absolutely, and they're
yeah.
successful. They're already
Mhm.
successful, and they'll provide really great insight. And I mean, not to say that you have, like, it's always good to listen, because you can sometimes get advice whiplash. Somebody can say one thing and say the absolute other thing. So there is like an understanding and your own journey and your own sense of what to do. But then, yeah, try something. Oh, it doesn't work. Don't be afraid to just try the next, like, try a sidestep to a
Yeah.
pivot.
Yeah.
It's just about finding that end goal in mind and working back.
Yeah. Well, Ariadne, thank you for reminding us that our solutions to our greatness and lies with, I mean, just being open and
Yeah,
just asking
absolutely.
the questions, and it's like creating or being focused and intentional. And I think that happens a lot of times. You become intent on something, and then there's an awareness that's created. And when there's that
Exactly.
awareness,
You realize
yeah,
I need the solution, and then your eyes are open to that coming to you.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. So the challenges are out there somewhere. And
And so are the solutions.
yeah,
And sometimes
find
they're within the challenge
yeah,
already.
that's right. So yeah, I mean the challenges are there, but that means that there's a solution right
Right.
behind it.
And you might be the perfect person to make it. You don't even know yet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for joining me today. Today's conversation was very inspiring, and that's yeah
Thank you
amazing
for
that you're doing so much to help solve these problems that we're facing in our oceans and with
Well, it is
sustainable.
a team effort. So if you think you can help us, don't be afraid to jump on. And I'm on LinkedIn and all sorts of any other platform. But thank you so much, Leanne, for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk more about Paramount Planet product and our goals, and also to share some of my experience and to hopefully inspire anybody else if they see a problem that they
Yeah,
already equipped. If you see the problem, you might be already specially equipped to get it done. Just saying.
So, what's your website, or how can our listeners
Yeah,
best
no,
reach you?
reach out to us on our website. I'm found on LinkedIn. Yeah, we're monitoring our inbox all the time. So anyway, I'm pretty sure you Google me and you can find me at 3 Ways to Sunday. So
Awesome. Well,
we're open
thank
book.
you again. And yeah, to our listeners, make sure to subscribe and share. And until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.
Thank you so much. Talk more soon.
Thanks.